Howdy, everybody. This is the Made in Paradise podcast on Friday, June the 26th, 2026. Today, we're talking about service to others. My guru, Baba Neem Karoli, said, love, serve, and remember. Love everybody, serve everybody, and remember God. And that serve part of that, he often also said, love everybody, feed everybody, and remember God. So serving and feeding people, giving them what they need for sustenance, were two of my guru's main points that he tried to teach us hard-headed humans, right? Service. And we were talking earlier about the difference between how people receive the word service. I'm going to be of service to others, or I'm going to be in servitude, right? Because illumination, when someone gets enlightened, when we think of an enlightened saint, an enlightened being, that is a being who only thinks about other people. There's no more ego there to be thought of. Only thinks of others. So that's a very high bar. That's a very, very high bar to never think of yourself. Right? Because the moment you think of yourself, my guru says, the moment you think of yourself, your sainthood is lost. So when you're considering yourself, now that's servitude. And that's something that doesn't sound appealing to very many people. But service, on the other hand, I served as a pastor. I served in law enforcement, and I really served in law enforcement. Most of it was volunteer and cost me something. But I've done a lot of volunteer service in community in the past. And there's a genuine reward that comes from that. There's a genuine reward to feeding people who are hungry, without a doubt. The thought that came back to mind is during Hurricane Rita 2005, you had Hurricane Katrina had impacted New Orleans, Louisiana, just a few months before, and then Rita came in, right? And so you had all the refugees from southern Louisiana had moved up into more northern parts of Louisiana and Texas, and we had a whole bunch of refugees there at the church, and everybody was hungry, right? You're hungry, and you're feeding hungry people, and feeding hungry people feels good. Y'all agree with that? I mean, it does.
I agree completely.
It does. It does. If you go to someone's house and they cook you a beautiful meal, it feels good to wash the dishes for them, right? Why not? And that's a form of servitude or service. So with that in mind, Anthony Ferguson, where are we going? What do you want to talk about when it comes to service?
I want to ask you, what's the best story about your mentor Brooks when it comes to serving others?
Oh, wait. Tearjerker, right? There's a lot of them. So let me tell you about two of them. Number one is he and his wife and some members from his church would do free suicide cleanups. So if your family member had committed suicide at your house or your business or whatever, and they could help you, they would go and clean it up so you didn't have to do it. Now you understand how challenging it would be emotionally to clean your relative's brains off the wall. In fact, my young cousin killed himself when I was a teenager, and Brooks and his wife went and cleaned it up for the family. So to me, that service, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to think about others at that level and to do that for other people. But Brooks had these little books called Your Daily Bread, and he got them. I don't know. They were fairly cheap. He got them from these people called Your Daily Bread, and it was a 30-day devotional guide, and it was very non-denominational. It tried not to be specifically religious in any way, but it was just an encouraging book, right? Every day you read something encouraging, and it mentioned God, but not in a religion put your face kind of way, more of a, look to God, there might be some hope there kind of a way. Just a little devotional guide called Our Daily Bread. And so every day, Brooks took some of those devotional guides and some toothbrushes and toothpaste, and he went to the Calcasieu Parish Jail because when they put you in jail, they did not give you a toothbrush or toothpaste. And so he would talk to all the people who had gotten put in jail the night before. And he went up there and he did that for years. And he sat there and talked to these people who had gotten put in jail the night before and gave them a toothbrush. Now, see, you just don't, if I didn't say anything about that, you don't think about that, right? You'll think, in biblical times, if someone didn't feed you, like in biblical times, you were in jail, if somebody didn't feed you, you died. You starved. They didn't feed you in jail. But, he was a real friend to a whole bunch of people, right? I mean, just crazy. And that's just some of the stories. I mean, we got into this situation where you look at these big churches, and the last church that I attended in Texas, it cost over $1 million. This is over 20 years ago, right? It cost over $1 million a month just to pay the pastors and to turn the key on the building, pay the air conditioning. It cost they had to collect over $1 million a month, 1.1, 1.2. This is 20 years ago. And I'm not going to mention the mega church that is, because it's bigger than it ever has been, right? And they saw thousands of people on Sunday morning. But the question I always said is the money, is that money doing that level of good? If you took that money and just said, I'm just going to do good with this money, instead of this evangelical thing that buys this person this private plane and these beautiful cars and this big mansion that he has and his other house in the Caribbean. Instead of that, we're going to take this money and we're just going to see how we're going to do good with it. And I got in one of those situations in my life with a church back in Louisiana that was more interested in building buildings than it was in helping people. It's okay to build the building for the people, but it's not good to make the building the thing. And that's what it was. It was, let's build a bigger building so we can have more status. But we weren't really thinking about, is this serving, right? We're spending all this money, doing all this thing, and it's serving. And I can tell you that the answer to that is no. Spirituality that way is extremely shallow and will not hold up when a person has a personal life crisis. Just doesn't.
Right. Okay.
So
I have a question. Sorry. No, go ahead. Finish.
Well, and we were talking about servitude and Brooks. I got into one of those situations and I decided I was going to give my money to Brooks and he was going to do direct needs with it. So in other words, he would take the money, and if someone needed their electric bill paid, or someone was coming through town and needed gas, or someone didn't have money for a funeral, he would take that money and he would use it for a direct need. So he came to me one time and there was this guy who had found Jesus, and he had been a meth addict or something similar, and all his teeth were rotten out, right? And so Brooks says to me, look, this guy, and this is what happened. I never saw him in my, he said, buy him some new teeth for me. And I said, all right, Brooks, I'll buy him some new teeth. So I gave Brooks the money, and Brooks went to a dentist and he made a deal. So he got the teeth like less than half price, right? He had made a deal with the dentist. And so I didn't go to Brooks's church, but one day I'm at Brooks's church and I'm down on the second row, and they worship they were Assembly of God. Their worship was more lively than I was used to, a little bit, let's say that. And I'm down the second row, and everybody's getting excited, and there's a little dancing going around, and then the music's going or whatever, and this guy's beside me, and I don't know who this guy is, and it's time to introduce yourself. I introduced myself to him, and he introduced himself to me, and then we had this short conversation, and then you know Pastor Brooks. Oh, I know Pastor Brooks. Pastor Brooks saved my life. Da 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 da. And he said, and he bought me these teeth, and he starts crying, and I start crying, right, because he doesn't know that I'm the one that's done that. But let me just say that happened dozens of times with Brooks. I would give him money, and he would go out and do real good with it. And the thing was, cannot mention my name, right? It has to be done completely in secret. But sometimes he would take pictures for me. He would take pictures of the family or whatever, bring it back and say, that's what that money did. That's what that money did. That was some of the greatest joy in service I ever had in my life.
Right.
Buying people teeth, Anthony Ferguson. You know anything about, if you know anything about that.
So we could have John to recover. Let me ask her on this. What does serving others mean to you?
What does serving others mean to me? It means doing what I can to help others. So if they need something and I can give that to them, or I could do it for them, then I'll do it without second guessing it.
So can you give us an example about that? Someone in the neighborhood or family that you literally...
Well, I'm always doing it when I'm going in and out of the valley. I always see people that are stuck on the side of the road, giving them rides in and out. If I have the space, I'll pull over, pick them up, give them a ride out of the valley. If I have extra change in my pocket and I see someone on the street, and I'll give them what I can give them.
Right.
I do that all the time.
Great. John?
That's true. He does do that. He goes through life that way. That's true. I don't think we probably would have gotten along this if he didn't go through life that way. So, what's your question, Anthony?
Or John, how does helping someone change your day?
Well, it's an immediate booster. I think that there's plenty of scientific evidence that, like for example, hugs and how a hug just releases serotonin in the body. It makes us feel better. When you help another person, you feel exactly the same way, right? It's like an emotional hug. We said, let me help this other person. If you're doing it begrudgingly, don't do it. Like, the Bible's really clear about that. If you're going to begrudgingly give, don't give. And, you know, there's a story in the Bible about this rich man, and he comes in front of Jesus and the disciples, and he's going to make an offering, and he makes a big deal of his offering, right? He brings in this money and he makes this big deal of his offering, and he's and he puts his offering in the offering box so everybody can see. Then a few minutes later, this old lady comes up, right? And she can barely walk, and she's kind of hobbling along and whatever. She gets up to the offering box. And she's got one little penny, right? And she looks at it right there. She's just kind of rubbing it like this, and then she just quietly puts it in the box, and then she walks off. And then Jesus said she gave way more, and of course she did, right? And that's why poor people are so much more generous than rich people are in every way, right? Because when you're poor, you understand, and you're more generous, and you're thinking about generosity, right? Because you've been the benefactor of generosity many times in your life.
Right. So what is the best way to serve?
The best way to serve is to serve yourself. The best thing you can do for the world is to work on yourself. That's it. So if you're not serving yourself, and you say, well, you're saying to be selfish? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying do what's best for you. Do what's positive and beneficial for you, because you can't serve anybody else until you do that serving of yourself, just like you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. So the best service that you can do, I think my meditation is definitely a service to the world, right? Without a doubt, as I've been doing it almost 20 years now. And I think, gosh, right, that's the best thing I can do. It helps me to stay calm and grounded and neutral and wise and in control of my emotion and all of those things, right? So it does make my whole world better. That thing does, right? And service in the same way when I serve myself, and then in turn serve others, because you have to serve others in the right way. You know, you can't, like a lot of times giving people money ruins them rather than serves them, right? Somebody who's always down on their luck and always needing money, right? Well, there's an issue there. And you giving them some more money is not going to help them. You give an addict and you give them some more money, it doesn't help them. Right? There's a repeating issue there that needs to be addressed, that the money doesn't address. So serving someone also, you need to know how to serve that person. Right? I mean, a lot of people gotten their ass beat by going downtown to find some homeless people and say, here, I brought you some food, and they got robbed, right? You need to know how to serve and where to serve. Go ahead, dear.
I was just thinking of that, there's people that get mad at me because I'll give a few bucks to a drug addict and they'll say, well, they're just going to go buy drugs. Well, I think, well, what if he doesn't? What if he actually is going to go buy food with that money? And there's a good chance that, it might be alcohol, it might be drugs, but what if there is a chance that he is actually hungry, he needs to buy food?
And all that's mental masturbation. The act was in the giving. You felt compelled to give. Think the best. Think that the best thing's going to happen. Don't even make the consideration of what they're going to do with it. Because let me tell you, if you're drunk under a bridge or an addict under a bridge and you get some money and that carries you through another day, just imagine if it was you. And that was your whole world, right? Okay, well, I made his life better one more day.
I missed it just by a pinch. Just by a pinch. In Indiana, Auburn boy.
Yeah, okay, well,
missed it by a pinch. It could have been me.
Could have been you, yeah. Grew up in Southwest Louisiana. Not worse than Indiana. Anyway, service is what we're talking about today on the Made in Paradise podcast.
Right. Let me go to my last question for both of you. I'm starting with Darren. Who needs your help the most right now?
Who needs the help the most right now?
Yeah, who needs your help the most right now?
Oof. I don't want to say any names, but it is a family member. And this family member does have a lot of issues, whether it's drugs and emotional problems and things like that. And I'm still trying to figure out what's the best thing that I can do for that person. And I think it's just by being there at this moment. And I don't know what I can possibly do more than just being there. So I'd rather not mention names.
Great. That's okay. John?
Yeah, I think I would mention family members as also, but again, I think this brings up the topic of when to serve, right? Because there's an appropriate time to serve and there's an appropriate time not to serve. Because sometimes, like with addiction, someone's going to have to hit bottom. They just really are. And that includes things like addiction to anger, right? Where they need to have that anger go full blast so they can see the consequence of that in destroying some relationship that's valuable to them. You see that? And so there's a time that you can serve people. Your question was, who needs to be served? And the first thought that came to my mind is who would allow you to serve them? Because in serving someone, they have to be allowed to be served as well. When to serve and the permission to serve, right? You have to be, there has to be a receiver. We know with addicts, they always say, you need to want to change. I can't want to change for you. You need to want to change. And someone needs to also be appropriately able to accept service. Because we're not talking about slavery. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about service. And I think that when it comes to leadership, I think the best type of leadership is the servant leader. He is the leader that thinks about the best, he wants the best for the people who are leading him rather than for himself, right? That's the servant leader. That Gandhi is the idea of a servant leader, right? You can beat me and I'm still going to be the leader. I'm going to lead at that level, right? I'll clean the toilet and I'm your leader. So everybody needs to be able to clean the toilet, right? I'm not above cleaning the toilet. You see what I mean? Servant leadership, we're doing what's best for the people that are underneath us, where positional leadership is this person now has the title of president, therefore they are the leader. The person with the most influence is the leader. But again, servant leadership being the best type of leadership.
Right. Good answer. So that's all from my side. Darren?
Well, my question is, can you serve someone and still maintain self-respect, or do you have to let go of your ego completely when you're truly serving someone?
I thought about this foot washing ceremony that we had for these teenagers. And the teachers in the Sunday school wash the feet, right? The male teachers wash the male students' feet, and the females did the females, right? And as an exercise in what Jesus told us to do. And it's very, very humbling to wash the feet of another person. And it's also, there was a kid there that didn't want to get his feet washed. And the reason is because he had a foot condition, he had warts on his feet, and his feet looked grotesque. No one ever saw his feet, right? But he let me wash his feet. And I didn't judge him. And so there was a lot of joy there in that service. So do you set your ego down? Yeah, I think to wash another person's feet, yeah, you have to set it down. And so if you're not setting it down, then you're just an employee, right? I mean, you're getting paid to do a job and you're doing that job. But if you're a servant, yeah, the ego has to go to the side. And that's where we find God in ourselves and our higher self, is when we set the ego completely aside and only think about others. That's illumination. That's enlightenment.
Yep. Anthony, you like to give service. You opened up John's soda bottles from time to time whenever he asked you to go pick one up. Did that come naturally?
No, let me be clear about this. I just say, would you just please bring me a soda? And he would come with the soda and a glass of ice, and then he would open the soda bottle, and I would say, that's too much service. I don't want to just set the bottle down. The glass and the ice was already over the line. Just go ahead and don't open it for me. No.
I think I've actually seen him a couple times pour it for you too. He'll start pouring, and you're like, no, you gotta
when
stop.
I'm not paying attention, when I'm on the phone, right? He wakes up on the phone, he's pouring it. I was just like, no, too much service. I have a line like, I don't want to be on the beach and have a butler there.
Right.
I don't. I've had it before. I don't want that. I want to be on the beach by myself. After being in Costa Rica, right? Go ahead, Anthony. Answer the
Anthony,
question.
The full question is, does this come naturally to you, or did someone teach you to be this way?
It's hard because what I could say, I remember my mother doing this naturally. So I could say that probably I just saw her doing this to other people, and the weird thing is that I enjoy it. And for some people that's stupidity, right? Because I enjoy more to see other people happy than to see myself happy. So even though if I'm at the supermarket and I'm behind the whatever, serving people, right? And there's probably a line and everyone need to be attended in the moment, and there's a old lady walking around, can't find whatever, sugar or salt, whatever, I would leave the counter and go straight and try to help the lady, and the smile that she's gonna give back, that she didn't ask for her help and there's someone assisting her, that's for me like sugar for kids, right? So I think that's probably I get that teaching from my mom. But I definitely enjoy helping others and see the smile in their face and all that.
So do you know the difference between if someone is actually taking advantage of you, between you actually serving this person? If someone's just saying, hey, do this for me, and you're like, well, okay, I'm happy to do it for you, but they're really just taking advantage of you because you're so willing to do it.
Oh, yes. I had this story that I used to make fun of it because I was at the supermarket, and I mean, you cannot leave the cashier, you cannot leave the money box, right? Because obviously there's danger behind that. So now and then there's this lady coming with the gas cylinder, and this, you know, that in Costa Rica is heavy, right? It's not aluminum.
Yeah.
That's right. So there's this lady coming in with the gas, and she's trying to take it to her car. I'm like, wait, please just give me 1 minute. Let me attend this next guy, and I would help you. Really? She's like, oh, I would be so grateful for that. So the thing is that I leave the cashier, I went out, take it to this car, and everything was fine. Like probably a week after, she came back with the gas, and I'm like, perfect. So she said, can you help me? I'm like, of course, no problem. So when I went to the car, there's our husband leaned back. Right, he's leaned back in the car.
Oh wow!
And he was
Maybe he's got
enjoying
a bad back. You don't know.
it. No.
You don't know.
And the guy's like, yes, thank you. I'm like, oh.
Oh,
I see.
yeah. So
Oh,
we went
okay.
over. That's definitely over the line.
That's
It's
right.
definitely over the line.
All right, John.
But
Well, carry on.
no, go ahead.
What's the difference between serving someone and being servile? Where does the healthy service to you become unhealthy?
I think if there's anything in it that is not beneficial to you, then it's become unhealthy. So if there's any part of the service that becomes unbeneficial in your life, that can quickly happen in churches where 20% of the people do 80% of the work, no matter what the denomination is. There's a small group of people, and the smaller that group of people, the more worn out they get. And so they always say the pastor's kid is the worst kid in the church. And the reason is because they work the pastor to death. There's no boundaries. So there's no boundaries. And so he has no time for his family. Right. So yeah, I've seen that crossed all the time, and you have to be very careful with it. But like I said, when there's the hint of this is not beneficial, this is not working out for me, this is causing a problem in my life, then maybe it's time to say, let's reevaluate. Right? Because there's one thing about I'm sacrificing my time. Like I love this so much that I'm spending more time doing it than I should. There's one thing, right? That's kind of a self-inflicted wound. But the other thing is I'm being taken advantage of, right? And unfortunately, in today's society, we have to be so careful about that because most people don't think anything about taking advantage of another person.
And so, do you think being in service to others, does that make you weaker or stronger as a person?
Well, I think it makes me stronger because I'm not having a servant's attitude, the attitude of a servant leader in the leadership roles that I get involved in. It just puts me in a better frame of mind. I'm not thinking about I'm better than this person or any of that, right? I'm not involved in the status game at all. And so I think it makes me better in every role that I take on as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a employer. In every role I take on the fact of, okay, I need to make sure I'm doing what's best for you, right? Not what's best for the company or what's best for me or what's best for you. And that helps me sleep soundly at night, that I treat people well and honestly. So I think it's a much stronger position to be as a servant leader rather than to constantly trying to be in status ahead of other people.
I agree completely. That concludes all my questions. John?
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Made in Paradise podcast. It's been a long week for this crew you see on the screen. We've been doing a lot. There's been a lot going on. This is episode number 49. And really, we have created an incredible amount of activity through and by this podcast, which is every week, Monday through Friday. Please like and subscribe, and is sponsored by Proven Performer. And Proven Performer is a company that sells big closeout deals, big liquidation opportunities. And today we're going to talk about the Fantic screwdriver. And I'm going to play a video here for you so we can just look at this thing and what it does. This was a 109 retail, 20 magnetic bits, 4 folding angles, a self-locking chuck, and it's got digital torque settings on the back of the screwdriver. And I'm saying, wow, I'm not sure why I need digital torque settings, but someone out there does. You need this because this thing is popular. It's got great reviews on Amazon. Darren, bring up that Amazon page and let's look at that real quick. So this is a $109.99 retail. It's on Prime Day deal at $78. Look at the great reviews that it's got. right? $78 with Prime. We have 2,160 pieces of this on closeout, Xworks California at $28.50. And we sell a tremendous amount of product in the years past, to casinos and to corporations for giveaways. And you're looking for something with a high perceived value. 2,160 pieces of the Fantic S1 Apex screwdriver, $79 on the Amazon Prime Day, which is cheap as it gets, right? Prime Day. And we're at $28.50. You don't have to take them all. Darren's going to put some contact information up on the bottom of the screen that's going to have our WhatsApp numbers and our email addresses. You can reach out to us there. If you got a big closeout deal that you want to sell, we'd love to talk to you about that. Consultation is always free. Doesn't matter how big it is, the bigger the better. We want to talk about it. We've got customers, let's call it now, in 30 plus countries, because, you know, we got people we talk to every day in brand new countries. It's amazing. We're always talking to somebody new, and we'd love to talk to you about your closeout problem or a big sourcing need that you have. So reach out to us below. This has been the Made in Paradise podcast for the Proven Performer crew that's on the screen. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next week.